Today I am going to show you a page in my traveler's notebook using the new 2 days devotion on the Creative Faith blog. So this was a partnership, a collaboration with Bethany at Pitter and Glink. So I wrote the content for the devotion and she made the artwork. And so normally I'll put the 2 pages on one spread, but I really wanted to dive in and think more about what God was telling me, and so I separated it and did it on 2 separate pages. So I'm using these awesome watercolor crayons from Recollections from Michaels. I got them for 70% off, and the colors match perfectly with the colors that Bethany used for the artwork, and so I was really excited to use them. They are a little bit shimmery, and so I just went around and did a little border on the pages, and so all you do is you color them on and then you add water to them. So that was just a really simple and easy background for me to do. I just wanted a little bit of color but nothing too overwhelming, and so that's where the background came from. I love that Bethany used these bright spring colors. If you read my blog, you'll know that this passage, John 11, that God really used it to teach me something in kind of a darker time last month, and so it was cool to use bright colors to really think about the joy and the hope that comes in times of waiting and times of suffering. I didn't love how some of the little chunks of color turned out, and so I have this really fun polka dot stamp, and so that did a great job of kind of masking some of the parts that I didn't love on the background and just added another element to the page. The story of the resurrection of Lazarus has a story that I've heard before, I've read before, but last month when I was reading through it, something stuck out to me that I hadn't really noticed before, and it was a little detail in the story saying that Jesus waited 2 days before he left to go kind of deal with the situation. So he waited 2 whole days before doing anything, and that really jumped out at me. I was really thinking about waiting and time, and Bethany created these awesome clocks in the printable that I just absolutely love. I've included them on all the pages I've done with this devotion. And so I was cutting out the really little baby clock because I thought it would fit well on the page. I knew I wanted to do a lot of journaling, and so I just cut out the little baby clock to glue on there, and I am using the tape runner from Elmer's to adhere that to the page. Another thing that really jumped out at me as I was reading this passage was how much Jesus loved Martha and Mary and Lazarus. It says that multiple times within the first 5 verses. So verse 3 says, "Therefore his sisters sent unto him, saying to the Lord, He whom thou lovest is sick." And then in verse 5 it says, "Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus." This really goes to show that if we are in a time of suffering, a time of sadness, a time of waiting, that this does not mean that Jesus does not love us. There is also purpose behind having us wait for different things, and in this chapter, in verse 4, it says, "The sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, so that the Son of God might be glorified thereby." And then in verse 15, it says, "I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, so that you may believe." And so that's what I was kind of journaling there, that we could remember that there's reason for waiting. So these little cutouts on the printable, I didn't even think of cutting them up into little words. I used them as kind of a washi word strip. So I liked all the words together. And Bethany had in her image showed them cut up into little tiny words, and I just kept it as a strip. So there's lots of different ways to play around with the with the resources. But I just love those words, waiting, purpose, believe. I really felt like those kind of went along with what God was teaching me through this page. And so I did some more journaling about God's love. Jesus said, I love you. And then I said, do you believe this, even in the hard and challenging seasons? And so I'd really encourage you to reflect on that. Do you really believe that Jesus loves us, that Jesus loves you, even when he's having you wait, and even though times can be really, really challenging? Martha and Mary had lost their brother in this passage, and but Jesus tells us that he still loves them and he still loves us. As I've been reading through different books of the Bible so far this year, one thing that's kind of stuck out to me is that hard times help us grow, and so I love the little growth tab that I stuck on the top. So I really pray that this devotion can bring you guys hope and encouragement that Jesus does love you even though things can be challenging, and that he can help you grow through these difficult times of waiting. Have a good rest of your day.